whatever, and then all right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of Between a Pot and a Hard Place. I'm Stephen Colton.
And I'm Christopher Patrick.
And I'm Pat Dugan again. I was running late and I got home. I'm like, I don't have time to wear a cool t-shirt. I'm just going to keep my work shirt on and all that. And we've already got people in here and liking it. Thank you, because we were a few minutes late because of me. It's usually the case because I usually, for some reason, on Sundays, I always get held up at work for some reason. It may be a work-related thing, or I see someone I work with and talk longer than I thought. It's always something, but it's weird. It's only on Sundays. Like on Saturday, or I don't work Saturdays, but on Mondays or Fridays, I'm home at like 7:15. I'm like, come on, how does that happen? Right. But one day a week, I need to be here on time. I never seem to be able to get here right on time.
Yeah, I appreciate that you work and then you rush over and do this show. For me, Sundays are pretty laid back. I don't work other than church and lunch with the family. I usually take a nap and then wake up and do the show. So, yeah.
And we've already got comments.
Wow.
Jeremy Ledford. Good evening, guys. Good evening,
hey,
Jeremy.
How are you?
Some kid named Corey is. No, I'm just kidding. Welcome to the Thunderdome. Yeah.
All right.
We're here. We're ready.
We're
to go.
Here.
I kind of feel like Peter Parker. Like I'm doing my little thing, and then I come home and take off my stuff, and here I am. I'm like, I'm Peter. I'm going to start zipping webs. And I talk about Spider-Man because over the last week, I've watched every single Spider-Man film except for Into the Spider-Verse, which I've seen it before, but I didn't really watch it again.
You don't count it as canon, or what's up with that?
Well, I do. I just forgot about it, I guess, because in my head I didn't forget it existed. In my head I'm like, live action films, ready to go, because I don't think we're going to see a Roger Rabbit style thing. We're going to see animated Peter Parker jump in with Tom Holland or anything. So I kind of watched all the films just in case we see the big crossover that's been rumored for like the last 20 years. So is this?
But if you consider the entire idea of the multiverse crossing over, I mean, that is what Into the Spider-Verse is all about.
It is. Not to say Corey's like, watch out for the Stephen Tingle.
Right.
My Stephen Tingle is working. I'm glad I don't have Jon Favreau behind me going like, is your Stephen Tingle working? Although that would be pretty cool. Jon Favreau seems like a really cool dude.
He does. Stephen, I'll have to take your word that it's working.
Yeah. My thoughts and senses, not anything else.
Right.
But yeah, I've rewatched all the Spider-Man movies.
That's great.
And technically Amazing Spider-Man 2, I didn't watch it like officially because what I had to do was find it on YouTube, and it was a series of clips entitled Spider-Man 2 the full movie, and it was like kind of butchered up clips, but mostly the overall film was there. And I gotta say, like, the Amazing Spider-Man movies I actually like a lot more than I used to think that I liked them. They're still not my favorite, but I do appreciate, like, the first movie, how accurate it is to the comics in so many ways that neither of the other two franchises have been. But at the same time, how dumb Peter Parker seems despite being a genius.
Right.
Because he literally seems like an idiot, but is super smart. He almost seems like Steve Urkel because he's not really clumsy, but kind of not common sense. But he has like all the book smarts in the world. But I love the fact that they showed his parents leaving, and then, the I was like hyping up this comic book accuracy, and I come up with one example. But all the little things like Gwen Stacy, for instance, and then her death with Green Goblin. It bothered me that Norman Osborn died before Green Goblin existed.
Right.
So and I noticed another theory online that, as we know, Tom Hardy has been loosely incorporated into the MCU, kind of. With the end scene for what was
Venom.
that? Oh, for Venom, duh. I'm like, what was the movie with Venom in it? Yeah, so spoilers, if you haven't seen Venom 2, don't remember what you just heard. But yeah, they say, and I've read interviews and stuff with like Kevin Feige and like all these other people talking about like their intention. Like, yeah, it was to start the process of incorporating the two worlds. It's not going to be like tomorrow we're going to have a movie with like a full-fledged Spider-Man and Venom movie. That might not happen for 5 years, who knows? But it's to start introducing those two worlds. And I've seen theories online that say like the Tom Hardy Venom and the continuity of the multiverse comes, of course, after Spider-Man 3, the Sam Raimi film. And the symbiote is kind of interconnected and it remembers being killed by Spider-Man. And so I thought that was kind of ridiculous, but at the same time, interesting. And we never got a Venom in their first reboot in the Amazing Spider-Man. But I gotta say, like, it was better than I remembered.
I think that the Andrew Garfield movies. Number one, Andrew Garfield he's a great actor.
Oh yeah,
he's really good. I never really thought he was bad.
No,
I do feel like the writing of those two movies was not really on the same level as what we saw with Tom Holland or what we saw with Tobey Maguire.
No,
and I just feel like I automatically just kind of naturally rank the Andrew Garfield movies as third out of the three.
Yeah, I think so. And I made a comment we were messaging each other the other day, and I made the comment that Amazing Spider-Man 1 was better than Spider-Man 3 as a film. And I still stand by that. I'm not going to say Spider-Man 1, 2, and 3, and then Amazing Spider-Man 1 and 2. That's the order. No, that's the chronological order. But I really do think that, I don't know if I can put them in a list, but the Homecoming trilogy, I guess you could call it, Tom Holland is the best Spider-Man, the best Peter Parker. But the overall story, I think the nostalgia factor, and we've discussed this before, but the Sam Raimi trilogy will always kind of win that nostalgia for me. Because I was in high school when that first movie came out. In 2002, I think it was. And then 2004 for the second, and then I think 2008 maybe for the third. And so I was already kind of grown up, not a grown up. I had my own car.
Right.
I was growing up, and I was in those years. I was basically the same age as Peter Parker in the film as the movie was happening. So I kind of felt like, okay, I resonate more with this than I do 10, 15 years later.
So it was relatable to you.
I think so, just because of that. I was in that same situation that I got bit by a spider. I could climb up walls. But no, I still think the Tom Holland movies are my favorite, even though I don't like how they kind of really skewed away from any kind of other accuracies to the comics, other than, okay, he's a kid and he's the most convincing child, because I think the first Spider-Man movie he was in, he was 19 years old. And he played a 16-year-old or 15-year-old, and that was so close. And he still looks like a 15-year-old kid. So he
does, but he's 25.
Yeah.
So.
One thing I did, this isn't the movie's fault, it's just the MCU thing. The scene in not Far From Home, when they're I think they're in Europe at this point, or they're on a plane going there. Flash Thompson has a glass of champagne or something in his hand, and the girl's like, he's not 21, he's really just 15 or 16, and they take it away from him because he's not old enough. I'm like, he's still legally 21 years old, but everybody pretends their age stopped. I'm like, you still have existed for this amount of time. So that kind of, it's the Savitar time mind loop for me.
Right.
I'm like,
right.
no, but I get having to redo school and all that stuff and having to start over, but then the age, I'm just going to not go there. But those movies are great. I'm super pumped for the third. I'm watching it on Friday the 17th. At 9-10 p.m. It's the first time I've seen a movie that late at night on a Friday in probably 100 years. The last movie I remember seeing would either be Jackass 3 or Titanic in 3D. As far as that situation. The only reason I saw Titanic in the theater is because my mom was like, I want to see Titanic. And that came out like 20 years before that.
Right. I think I did it for Infinity War and for Endgame when they did it really late.
Hello, Square Table Degenerate Podcast. I don't know your actual name, so I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining in.
Welcome.
And I got to correct myself because I did go see Endgame in the theater at night. So Marvel movies are just so much better at night. They are. I don't know what it is. And I don't know if I'm nervous. I'm not really nervous about the whole like being packed in with a bunch of strangers thing. I think I've been careful given the current situation that we've had over the last 2 years with the pandemic and everything. But I'm not so stressed or like anxious about that kind of interaction anymore. I'm not going to be licking the people next to me.
That's good.
Or anything like that. And I noticed when I went to the movie a few weeks ago to see Ghostbusters that the whole mask thing wasn't implemented, but no one really cared, which I don't know how I felt about it, but I was like, I've had all the vaccinations and all this and that, and not to say I'm immune forever, but I'm not concerned. This isn't the COVID podcast. I'm gonna veer off of that topic, but it's just nice to be able to go to a theater now and have a huge room full. Like it's almost a packed audience. I keep looking at the ticket page to see what seats are left, just to see if it's going to be full, because I haven't been to a full theater for a movie probably since nearly Endgame, and even then it wasn't completely full. But it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I've been to the movies a bunch of times since. I've got some friends who just really love going and seeing movies, and so I go pretty regularly, at least once a month.
Hi.
Hey, how's it going, Clemente?
Yeah, I've been I saw the Impractical Jokers movie in I want to say March of 2020, right before the world closed, and then I saw Ghostbusters like a few weeks ago, and that's the only two movies I've seen in the last 3 to 5 years, maybe. No, aside from Endgame and stuff, like those few movies are all I've really seen. I've been tempted to join one of these like movie clubs, pay like $20 a month or whatever, and see unlimited movies. But lately, there's not been a lot that I want to go see. Ghostbusters is really the first that jumped at me, like you have to watch this, and then of course Spider-Man.
And it was totally worth it too.
And I've heard rumors. And Ghostbusters is still playing, I think. So if you haven't seen Ghostbusters, go watch it right now. After this is over.
There are people out there that they hype things and they exaggerate, and you can't really trust. But I'll tell you what, Afterlife really does live up to the hype.
It does, and as Corey points out, Corey is very scientific, so he knows a lot about this stuff. They electrify doorknobs now to discourage licking. And if we learned anything from Macaulay Culkin and Home Alone, that he didn't electrify the doorknob, but he did heat it up. So I think the world kind of knew like that would happen. They would need that technology one day. Let's see here. Awesome. Finally got here. Ghostbusters is very satisfying. And it really is.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies ever. And I have to talk about this because I know we talked about it privately, but Ghostbusters 2016.
You watched the 2016 gender bent version.
Now, what happened was I went to this used bookstore, but they sell DVDs, Blu-rays, video games, all kinds of stuff. And I went in because I was trying to find all the Spider-Man films. I recently bought, again, the original trilogy on DVD because I used to own them and couldn't find them over the years, lost them somewhere. Bought them all again, watched them a while back, and then I still had those. And I had Far From Home on Blu-ray that I bought out of a red box because I was going to rent it, and then it says buy now for $8.99 or whatever. I'm like, okay, and I just kept it. And then I bought Homecoming on Blu-ray at this used store. It was like $8. It's great. Come to find out, the brand new copy is only $10, but I was like, $2. I still saved $2, and I've got everything. It's used.
There you go.
It works fine. And I found the Amazing Spider-Man, the first Andrew Garfield film. And so I bought Homecoming, the first Andrew Garfield, and then 2016 Ghostbusters. It was like $20 or less for all three movies, which I thought, okay, the $20 is value enough for the other two movies. So Ghostbusters was like I don't want to call it a bonus because there's nothing good about it. And Other than the fact, the only good I can take away from buying that movie is that I saved one person from having to subject themselves to it. I wanted to not just like it, but I wanted to at least watch it. Corey's. Oh God, no.
Well,
But yeah,
I told you it was going to be a dumpster fire, and I feel really bad because I wanted to like it. I really tried hard to watch the 2016 Ghostbusters and see it with fresh eyes and not be critical of it. But man, it was poorly written. It was cheesy, and
yeah.
it just didn't deliver. It was everything that Afterlife was. You know, I mean, I think that the 2016 one just totally didn't deliver. And
I wanted to like it for so many reasons,
Right.
but I mean, because when I found out, I think it was Paul Feig who directed it, which is a guy, one of the main people that worked on The Office, and I loved The Office, and so it was comedic. I was like, I love The Office, and there was at least one or two Office actors that were on the show,
Right.
like the guy in the beginning of the movie when, if any of you know The Office, the character of Gabe, who's like a tall, like really skinny, like nerdy looking, like scary kind of alien guy. He was in the beginning. He was like some kind of curator for this museum or the house or whatever it was, like the housekeeper. I don't know. He was like in charge of it or something. And he was the one that said, "Oh, come look, it's haunted." And he was scanning people. You know, he hit a switch that made something fall over to freak people out and all this. But then the stuff with him, that opening scene, like all that was hilarious. I loved the first 15 minutes of the movie. I thought it was great. But then it was around 38 minutes, maybe, when they were chasing the ghost into the subway. And I liked how they had the proton packs and stuff in like a prototype form, where it was like they had a huge cart. They had to like take 3 people to move it. I liked that idea because it's like, okay, we're figuring this out. It's not perfected the first try. And when they were chasing that ghost and the train came and hit the ghost and hurt the ghost, spoilers, believe me, that's not that's a spoiler, but you would be spoiled if you actually watched the movie. It would be bad. It was like spoiled eggs, bad spoiled. But yeah, when you have a ghost that is so demonic and scary and dangerous and all this stuff get hit by a train and taken away because it can't get out, I literally said, well, people from church are watching, so I'm not going to say what I want to say. But I'm just like, F this. And I literally stood up and turned it off and took it out of my player. I'm like, I can't. I didn't break it, but I wanted to. I don't know how it ended because I don't really care to know at this point. Because if you have a ghost getting hurt by getting hit by a train, then this is not the movie I want to watch. Now, had that been Scary Movie or one of those parody type comedic things,
right?
Fine.
If it's meant to be farce, if it's meant to be a joke, then I get it. But it was supposed to be a relatively serious movie, and again, I wanted it to be good.
It's not sexist.
Well, and I think this is not the first time that we've talked about the 2016 Ghostbusters, and we've been, I think, really careful not to just hate on it because it's starring women. But I mean, they could have made a great movie starring women that would have, I think, that would have been fantastic. They could have done an Afterlife with starring women, and I think it could have been great. But instead,
and they could have, I mean, I think Dan Aykroyd had the idea of having it either be like their daughters or like a West Coast branch or something. And another thing that really bugged me, it was like a throwaway nod to the originals, but they went to the actual firehouse early on when they're trying to find a headquarters. And it was essentially the same plot in the first 30 minutes. They were at a school. They were in a school doing research. Big research head principal director guy or whatever comes and says, "This is ridiculous. You're not getting paid anymore." And they literally have to move out of the school and find a headquarters. They go to a fire. Same exact movie up to that point, but worse. And they show the Ghostbusters, firehouse, the original firehouse. And I'm like, oh, wow, this is cool. They're going to be in the firehouse. No, then they go to some rundown warehouse. I'm like, so you went to the original firehouse just for a joke, which is basically a slap in the face to the original movie. And then people that are mad that the new Ghostbusters Afterlife has nothing to do with that one have no right to be mad, because that was the worst thing they could have done, basically slapping everybody in the face.
Yeah, I really do believe the best we can do is kind of treat the 2016 Ghostbusters like it never really happened. I think that's probably for the best. I can't find a single person who actually likes it.
A Facebook user watching on our Between the Pond and Hard Place Facebook group says it did not hit the mark on multiple levels because they were lazy on multiple levels, and that's true.
It was.
And it could have and should have, but it didn't.
Yeah, and I watched the entire thing. You had the common sense to stop watching 30 minutes into it.
I mean, I had the moment where I was like, this can't get any better, but it can get much worse. And at that point, when I had that realization, I was like, I can't do this. I would rather go back and watch like the worst episode. I would rather watch like season 7 of The Flash over and over, or season 6 of The Flash over and over.
Oh, wow. That really is bad.
Because at least that made it good. And that made me, maybe that's why I love the Andrew Garfield movies again so much, rewatching them, because I had that bad taste in my mouth from Ghostbusters. And then Andrew Garfield comes along. I'm not going to say he comes along and gets the taste out of my mouth, because that sounds really weird, but he helped me forget. And then what you were saying earlier, the writing and stuff was so much better in the original trilogy on Spider-Man, but there was like a few moments in the Amazing Spider-Man films that were really kind of like thought out. Like when Gwen Stacy, her death scene, that was really hard. Not hard to watch, like it's bad, but it was like, wow. And in the second movie, when he kept seeing her dad's, like not his ghost, but he kept seeing him, and like he refused to be in a relationship with her because of the promise that he never actually made, but he wanted to make. And that whole thing was really good. It was really well done at that part of it. But the rest of the movie, like, look at me, I'm Spider-Man, like all the goofy stuff, which is funny, but it's like,
I think my issue was that he becomes Spider-Man and he's got a skateboard, and somehow he's using his spider abilities to do tricks on the skateboard. To me, that part didn't land quite the same way.
And how's it going, Brian? Hated the Garfield movies. I mean, I did too. I hate Garfield movies more than I hate Mondays. Oh, you know what I did there? Garfield the cat. Bad joke. I mean, I didn't really hate the movies. I don't like them as much as Tobey Maguire films, except, like I said, the first one is better than Spider-Man 3, just because. And one of the things that was lazy about the Amazing Spider-Man series is the fact that Oscorp literally had every villain created by the end of the second movie. You saw Doc Ock's arms. You saw like every single thing in the thing. It's almost like the Power Rangers, where like they created these 5 powers, but the opposite of that, which in the comics, I think everything eventually tied back to Oscorp at some point. But like with Spider-Man 2, Sam Raimi film, you know, he was not working for Oscorp. Oscorp was just funding his work. So that was a little bit different. And, you know, he created the Doc Ock arms. He created all this, but Harry Osborn just paid for it. Whereas in the Amazing Spider-Man, they literally have built everything already. And the fact that Peter's dad created and built the spiders, well, not built them, but bred them or whatever, that actually eventually bit him. And it just so happened to be the Parker bloodline that caused the stabilization of this genetic cross and like all this stuff. It was like, dude, no, there's no way all these coincidences would fall in line and the perfect scenario to create Spider-Man. No.
I think the only thing that I like better about the Andrew Garfield version is Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, I loved her. Like,
yeah,
the actress, the character, I think it was refreshing not to have like, oh, Mary Jane, and people really kind of like crap all over Kirsten Dunst like acting, which I didn't mind her, but it seemed like a lot of the times in those 3 movies that she was always like reading off a card or like ending everything in a question, like, hi, Peter, what are we doing? You're Spider-Man? You want food? I'm hungry. Like, she just had that weird like vibe about her, but she had a decent look, and the whole like kissing scene in the rain, like that was really cool stuff. But the third movie, I watched it again a few days ago, and Peter was such a jerk. He was like, oh, I'm going to hang down and kiss Gwen Stacy, and in front of her, the same way I kissed only her. And what, baby? What's the problem? I just kissed a different girl in this most romantic way that we shared ever. Why are you mad? Now dig this. Like that. I mean, I don't know. But moving on from Spider-Man, because this isn't like a Spider-Man show. We're talking about Spider-Man, but we got
But
the
you
Flash
got
Armageddon to get to as well.
well. And before we do that, though, I mean, I think that you got tickets to go see No Way Home, right?
Yeah, I bought one ticket. I'm gonna go alone, which is it sounds sad, but I mean, like, I didn't know anybody offhand immediately that would go with me or wanted to go on that specific night for that price. I know people that would want to go, but they're gonna wait till a Tuesday afternoon and get to go for like $8 instead of 14 or whatever it is. But I'm going on Friday. It's at 9:10 p.m. And I've already worked out a way to smuggle candy in. So if you're watching Regal Cinemas, I'm just kidding. This is a parody episode. Wink, wink. I'm going to Regal because it's the closest theater to where I work. So it's like it'll take me, I'd say, 10 minutes to get there from work. And I'll probably get there like an hour ahead of time and like wait around, eat all my candy in the car, then have nothing for the movie. But yeah, I'm lucky I live in a smaller area. I mean, it's not some unknown, unheard of town like off the map, but it's not like a New York City or a Los Angeles or a huge city where they're all sold out immediately. I'm surprised. I'm like, we're not sold out. There's still most of the front row left in that showing. You know, they have like 8 showings that night, and they're not any of them are sold out, I don't think.
Have you ever had the misfortune to sit in the front row?
No, I've always had the option, but I've never had to do it.
There's a reason why people don't sit there.
Yeah, I love the center because it's. I mean, if I was at like a Broadway show or like a live performance like that, I would definitely want to sit near the front. But
oh yeah, but when you're in a movie theater, and you've got to spend the entire movie like this, I mean that totally sucks. Though I will say that with the recliners,
that's a great gift.
Oh wow, your daughter is awesome.
Can your daughter get me tickets to the Flash next year? I'm just kidding.
I think we need to see if she can hook us up.
Yeah. But yeah, I also wanted to, I'll go ahead and like share our social media platforms and everything. Facebook.com/Between a Pot and a Hard Place. We got people watching on that right now. Our Twitter @Pot and Hard Place. And I don't want to forget our Facebook group, which is Facebook.com/groups/Between a Pot and a Hard Place. We've got people watching there as well. So @Pot and Hard Place on Twitter. And our sponsor, Mark Guggenheim, he's been a great friend to us, and he brought us or helped bring us Be Able to Say Christmas, which is amazing. And you guys need to go watch it right now if you want to laugh. And well, it wasn't terrible, but it wasn't, I don't know. Moving on. You can follow me if you feel like it, I guess, @Steven_Colton and then @CJ_Kirk1979. I made it sound like both of those are mine. Follow Chris @CJ_Kirk1979. I'm like, follow me at this and this.
There you go.
YouTube, which a lot of you are watching right now as well on YouTube, just Between a Pot and a Hard Place. I don't have like a @this on YouTube. YouTube is weird like that. It would be easier if you could just say @Between a Pot and a Hard Place on YouTube. But yeah, you just type in Between a Pot and a Hard Place. We're the only one on YouTube, I think, that exists. Oh, come on, Brian. No. Was not crazy about Afterlife. I mean, well, see, one of the things about Brian is he usually hates all the good stuff and loves all the bad stuff. But at least he doesn't love Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man more than any of the other ones. He hates those, so he's not always
right. Wrong. So we can at least agree on that.
Yeah,
I don't know. We've always made this. We try really hard to not be a hater podcast. I think there's so much out there for us to celebrate that we love that we try not to bash people or their differing perspectives. That said, I thought Afterlife was really, really, really good. I brought my wife and my kids to go see it, and my wife cried. I didn't cry, but I didn't blame her either. So,
okay, our person before our hookup says get 40 years, and I'll hook you up with tickets for. I think by 40 years, The Flash will be a very old movie at a $5 bin. But I don't have an anniversary, so if anybody Chris, I don't know how long. Yeah, I know you've mentioned it, but how long you've been married? I know you've not been married 40 years.
No,
But
I'm 21.
okay,
21.
so
So I've
you're
got,
halfway there.
I just got to hang in for 19 more years, and I
Yeah,
get a free. Well, I'll get a free $12 movie. So
yeah.
it's worth waiting for. So
And Corey wants to know though, Brian, what did you think of Ghostbusters 2016? I mean, because
yeah.
based on the logic, you probably loved it.
Oh, let's not
No,
bag on
just
him.
teasing. Yeah, we
But
know.
I do want to know. I do want to know his perspective on that one, just for curiosity's sake.
It wasn't good.
There we
Okay,
go.
we'll
All
see.
right. So
You know,
Brian, you saved yourself right there.
It's kind of a tease because I mean,
Right.
Brian has said himself, like, if he likes it, he said on a few times, if I don't like it, it's probably good. Which I remember, and I know he'll remember this too. Probably the first time I saw the trailer for the Sam Raimi Spider-Man 3, we were at the old comic shop they used to run. They used to own it, and we were standing there on a computer watching the trailer. And I was like, oh my gosh, Sandman. Oh, Venom. Oh, I'm so excited for Venom. Little did I know. That Venom. I really hope he's in this movie so the other one can eat him. That's my biggest wish.
That you're not a big Topher Grace fan.
I love Topher Grace. Like I was, that 70s show was one of my favorite shows still to this day. But Topher Grace is not Eddie Brock.
No.
He is not Venom. Oh, hey, I want to kill the spider. You want to kill the spider. So, what do you think? And I'm like, no. It sounded like a GQ model pretending to be Venom or something. Like it just didn't. It wasn't Eddie Brock. I like Topher Grace. I think he could have been he would have been a better Flash Thompson than Eddie Brock, even though Flash Thompson is like huge and he's supposed to be big. And that bothered me about the newer movies, that Flash Thompson is this little nerdy kid, just like everybody else. But one thing I love overall about Spider-Man Homecoming's franchise is that they're more realistic characters. Like these kids are nerdy. Some of them are heavier. Some of them are skinnier. They're not all perfect models who just happen to be really strong and fast and popular all the time.
So what do you think? What do you think of what they've done with Zendaya, who is this beautiful, talented woman, and they've sort of given her this kind of Cinderella treatment before she goes to the ball, right? They've really toned her down. She's more sarcastic and witty.
Yeah, I mean, I liked her. At first, I was mad. I was like, you're not Mary Jane or Gwen Stacy. And then Ned, I'm like, who's this kid? He's not Harry Osborn. That's Flash. This is crap. But then, like I said, as I started watching them, I realized those movies weren't realistic. I mean, we're talking about Spider-Man, so none of it's going to be realistic.
Right.
But if this were to happen today in real life, I feel like Spider-Man would be mentored by Tony Stark. I feel like he wouldn't know how to make all this stuff on his own. Even as smart as he is, he wouldn't be able to create all these suits and all this stuff in 10 minutes in a montage. He would need somebody like Tony Stark to help him. And these characters in school, Flash Thompson wouldn't be this big, hey, I'm Flash Thompson. Come here, little guy. Like that happens, but it's not realistic, I don't think. I think it's good. It adds more diversity without shoving diversity in it.
Right.
And with the MJ character, they did have that aha moment where it's like they were referring to her as Michelle the whole first movie. She was a side character in the background. Nobody cared about her. Then all of a sudden she was the star of the show, like Cinderella moment. She was, her stepsisters were loving Peter Parker, and then not her actual step. But, you know, like it really was kind of a Cinderella type story.
Right.
And now I love all those characters because they're realistic.
I kind of like that she is understated a little bit.
Yeah. And somebody pointed out a continuity error. And in the headlines of the articles that I read were like, major Marvel continuity error. And it's kind of a spoiler, but it's not a spoiler for the new movie because they've released these clips online. In the beginning of No Way Home, you see her standing in the street where they left off from the last movie and seeing the crowds come up to Peter like, oh, you're Spider-Man. and she's wearing that Black Dahlia necklace, where at the end of Far From Home, she was not wearing it in that moment. And they're labeling it as like this massive, massive plot hole. I'm like, it's one thing. I pretend like she was like, oh gosh, you're Spider-Man. You know, is it that big of a deal? No, it's not. And yeah, Brian pointed out, and I mentioned this a while back too, that Tobey Maguire, Flash Thompson, was Joe Michelangelo. I never can pronounce his last name right, so it's like Zach Galifianakis.
Right. I won't judge. I won't judge you, Steven.
But we also wanted to kind of touch on our Facebook group posts like we always do. We've been doing this for a few weeks, and there's quite a few of these, so I might speed through some of them real quick.
Yeah. And
this week I tagged everybody in these that posted these, and I was like, "Hey, you're going to be on here."
I love that idea. I think it's great.
And so I want to let everybody know that was Chris's idea to tag everybody. I'm not that smart. Well, I guess I'm that smart, but I just didn't think of that.
You are that smart.
But yeah, we're going to go run through some of these real quick. So J.A. Ledford, which is our friend, he's always got some content. He's always on here. He's been tagged by Facebook as one of our group experts, which is cool. So MODOK debuts an Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, which that movie's not coming out for like a couple of years, I think. 2023, I think it is slated to come out. Maybe late 2022, I'm not sure. But that's pretty cool. I'm not too familiar with the character, but I think it's kind of cool that they're starting to pull from other bags of tricks. And so that's cool. He posted another one. He has got a couple of these because I was like, I don't want to include more than one from a one person, but then he's got so many good ones.
He does post a lot, so that's good.
So while filming Spider-Man Homecoming in 2017, Michael Keaton would whisper, "I'm Batman," to Tom Holland during fight scenes. We have a fight in the movie, and I punch him. He turns around and says in a deep voice, "I'm Batman." He kept doing Batman quotes on set, Holland said. And when I first saw this post the other day, I was like, Batman was not in Spider-Man. And I realized, Michael Keaton was. And he was a pretty good character. I loved the Vulture. I think that was really cool. Myron Simpson posts, and this is like a wrestling-related post, so a lot of you who aren't wrestling fans are like, who is this guy? But those of you who are, a wrestler, Adam Cole, who's, pretty well known as far as hardcore wrestling fans. He promises he will end up as a top guy in AEW, which is a newer wrestling promotion, and he's very talented. And he used to work for the WWE, and then he left and went over there and became not a megastar, but he's becoming more popular. So I wanted to talk about wrestling a little bit on this show. Just not everybody loves it, but it's something I like, and it's something I think a few people in the group liked. So we don't have any kind of special graphic or effect, but the former WWE wrestler Charlie Haas is going to be coming on our show soon. He was a WWE tag team champion multiple times. He was in another organization called Ring of Honor. He was tag team champion there multiple times. He's like an All-American, like amateur wrestling champion, all this stuff. He's a great dude. I don't know him personally. We've spoken on Facebook, but he's agreed to come on. We don't have a date yet, but he's coming up soon. So if any of you wrestling fans out there know who he is, remember him, then check that one out because it's going to be a fun interview.
Yeah. What I love about our podcast is the fact that we really are pretty wide, and we have musicians coming on, we have writers and directors coming on, we have actors coming on, and I think it's just great getting to meet and interview new people.
And speaking of people coming on, another name we have that's pretty big. I wanted to save this for like a big epic, like have a video montage ready or something that we are going to be focused on the Flash. So I think I might like make everybody wait just a few more minutes until we get to that discussion.
Yeah.
I think it ties in well, but we'll just say it's related to the Flash, a big guest related to that show.
I'm excited for that one.
I'm so excited for that one.
Yeah.
We are the Flash now. We are going to shape that next show.
We are the Flash.
If there's a season 9, we're going to tell them what should happen.
Steven, you are my lightning rod.
Then lightning hit me. That'd be funny, wouldn't it? I mean, it would be tragic, but it would be hilarious.
That even makes me cringe right now in a little bit. So.
Like there were supposed to be thunderstorms last night, but that was yesterday.
You're not surrounded by chemicals, are you?
I guess water. But
that won't do it.
well, I do have a monitor heater that runs off kerosene. So if kerosene explosions and water could create some sort of like fire character, then that'd be kind of cool.
Pretty sure that just gives you third-degree burns.
Call me Burning Man.
Right.
Oh, because
right.
Oh, that's terrible. Taija, I think I'm bad with names, but I think she's posted a few times on here, and I noticed her post more recently. But it's a Star Wars related prequel hate, sequel hate, toxic fan base. My love for Star Wars. Boom, 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 woohoo! I just thought that was cool because I feel that way. Everybody hates this, and this, and I know Brian has a lot to say about Star Wars probably, so he might pop up with a comment or two. But and I get it. Diehard Star Wars fans, you grew up on this. This is your Star Wars. This is what it's supposed to be, and then can I come and change everything and do this and that? And I wasn't the biggest fan of what Luke Skywalker did in the last couple of movies, but I mean, I'm like this meme. I love whatever. I mean, I'll watch it. I'm not going to hate on it necessarily. I'll have moments I thought could have been better if this happened or if that happened, but overall, I just love Star Wars.
I think that I'm glad that we get more story. I think that's what I'm thankful for. You know, if we had just stopped with episode 4, 5, and 6, and didn't get the entire thing, I think that we would have missed out on some interesting story. Are there some real hits and misses? Sure. Like I think in the first 3, episode 3 is one of my favorites, Revenge of the Sith. You get that Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi duel, which I think is some of the best of the entire franchise.
Oh yeah,
I think that's fantastic. If we didn't get the prequels, we would have missed out on that movie, and I think that part is great.
Yeah, I could have done without episode 1 and 2 and just picked up at the start of episode 3 and be like, had the scroll on the top, be like, well, Anakin used to be a slave, and then he worked, and then he raced, then he won, and now they're here, and they're going to fight in a minute. Da, 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 da. And then like that was beginning of just that one movie for me would have been enough to tell the story.
You would have just gone and reduced all of that to a scroller across the screen.
I mean, you really could have, I think, because not a lot happened in the first 2 movies. Like, he's a little boy. Oh, Mr. Qui-Gon, what is a midichlorian? Like, I don't know, Anakin. No one has ever heard of midichlorians before this moment, and no one will ever hear of them again after this moment. Like, little stuff that really wasn't relevant. Jar Jar Binks, like, Misa irrelevant. Misa have no impact on the whole franchise. Misa think me stupid. You know, now, I don't know.
Now, mind you, my wife is a big Jar Jar Binks fan.
Oh, that's right.
She loves Jar Jar, and I have to say, I really like Qui-Gon. I thought Qui-Gon was great. There were some really great moments in there, and we do get kind of the evolution of Palpatine. I think that if we didn't have all 3, you would kind of miss out on him turning into the Emperor. And so there are some great parts interspersed in there. But that first movie, I remember, because again, I'm a little bit older, but I remember people going and camping out for days to go and see the Phantom Menace, and then watching it and being a little bit underwhelmed by it.
Yeah, so, I saw Phantom Menace in theaters, and I thought it was exciting. I loved the pod racing scenes, and I really loved playing the pod racing arcade game when we had kids. Arcades used to be these rooms you can go in and have video games. But it was really cool because it had the dual controls on it, and then if you had a Nintendo 64 video game system, then their controller, if any of you remember, had that one stick in the middle, and so you could use 2 controllers to control a pod the same way. And I thought it was really cool that they did that. But as far as the movies go, like, I think if I had to get rid of 2, 1 and 2 would be gone, and then 3 would just be that. But I mean, I still love watching the other 2. If I watch them all in order, I still watch 1 and 2. I don't skip them. And I know those hardcore, dedicated Star Wars fans, I think he's one of them, where they'll be like, that movie doesn't exist. La, 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 la. You know, and that's fine. If you don't like it, you don't like it.
I think we all have our headcanons, right? When we close our eyes and we think about a franchise and we just kind of act like that movie never happened. I think we sometimes do that. So we can go ahead and move.
Sorry, I can't
ahead.
I accidentally clicked at that time. I was ready to click it, and I'm like, oh no.
You're just really excited.
I'm excited to get through these all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like a lot of stuff. I'm excited for this week. So Marvel's Kevin Feige has confirmed that Charlie Cox will be the MCU's Daredevil. I know that's been rumored. There was like I think there was a set photo that was leaked with him and Tobey Maguire and all these and everybody and supposedly Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't know if that's true. It could be true. And if they're officially announcing he is right before that movie comes out, then chances are, I mean, we might not see it coming. I'm terrible at jokes. Still better than the Marvel joke book.
Immensely.
But yeah, Charlie Cox, a lot of people like him. And I admit I haven't watched all of the Daredevil Netflix series.
Oh gosh,
not all of it. I've seen some of it. I need to go back and watch it actually because I do have Netflix.
I really do feel like the Daredevil series is fantastic. I mean, all 3 seasons are legitimately good, and to see him, you watch it in some of the movies, and they just kind of make it seem like, Daredevil had always been, Daredevil, and the idea that in the Netflix series he kind of evolves and grows into that character. I think he's fair. Right. It's just really, really good.
I definitely want to check it out. I think it threw me off originally because it was very slow paced, and like you said, it was a journey and like the metamorphosis of like from here we go, Matt Murdock into Daredevil. I'm just like, where's Daredevil? Where is he at? He's like, hello, I'm in a room talking with sunglasses on in my suit. Nothing is happening for about 15 or 20 minutes, but this is really integral to the story. Like, I didn't appreciate that back then, which I think I do more now watching so many other shows and movies over the last few years. So I'm definitely going to give it a try, especially since they're tying him in. That's all going to be canon, I would imagine. Unless they do like in WandaVision where we have a character or an actor coming back reprising a role just to be kind of thrown out and not thrown out, but like, oh, you're not really that guy. You're this guy. So that could be the case with this. Like it could be a different version of Daredevil, but I'm excited either way because it just shows that they're willing to kind of adapt past things into this world, which is just completely exciting. And I think they could still even have a Spider-Man 4 with Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire. He'll be like 50 years old now. Like, I'm Spider Old Man. And I still have web blood. It could happen. I don't know.
Right.
Or Andrew Garfield 3.
I feel like Tobey Maguire would like fall and break a hip.
Probably. My back. Yeah. My back. That'd be the entire movie. The whole movie.
By the way, before the older that I get, the more that I can relate to that. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I feel that every other day. Like my hands, my joints. I'm like, oh no, I couldn't be Spider-Man. So Chris Gook posted. So I just watched Brightburn, and damn, now I understand what an evil Superman would be like somewhat. I'm not familiar with this. I haven't watched it or anything, but it seems interesting.
I feel bad that I haven't watched Brightburn either. I mean, I'm familiar with what it's about.
Mm-hmm.
That it is sort of a dark take on I guess a younger character who has superpowers, kind of like Homelander in The Boys, right?
Yeah.
But I need to get caught up and watch that.
I mean, this character looks pretty interesting, like the suit itself, because it looks like one of those like early stage suits.
It definitely looks like something his mom might have made, right?
Yeah, I mean, just like on the Flash, like the first suit we saw, it was like dark maroon colored instead of red.
Are you ever surprised how many superheroes can actually sew? I know. And that's something that I'm just amazed by. Like all these straight guys out there who somehow know how to work a sewing machine and make their own costumes. I'm like, I know that I've tried my hand at sewing a couple times and it was an abysmal failure. So
I've never tried. I mean, that's one more reason I liked not Tobey Maguire, because he did a great job and he was such a perfect artist too. He sketched out his whole costume. Right. I was like, look at this, I'm comic book quality drawing. But the Tom Holland Spider-Man was really more convincing in that area because he didn't really stitch a costume. He put a red hoodie on and put some glasses and like a face mask and like blue pants. Like he just kind of threw together like this Goodwill costume.
It really did look like a home job, right?
Yeah.
That, you know, something that you might throw together and make it believable that a teenager did.
And that's what I loved when Tony Stark got mad at him and took his suit away. He went back to that suit, and I thought that was really cool.
Yeah.
And then we saw the Iron Spider suit in Spider-Man 2, which was amazing. So Kay posts, what's that I hear? Only 2 weeks until The Witcher season 2. Again, another thing I'm like, I feel bad saying I haven't seen. I haven't seen The Witcher. I've heard a lot about it and heard it was really good. I've seen clips, but I haven't actually sat and watched any of it.
Right. I think if you're a Henry Cavill fan, and he seems to be, he's got his hands in a lot of different pots. If you're a Henry Cavill fan, you're going to like Witcher.
I mean, it looks good. And the next one, we have a ton of like replies to it.
Okay.
Because this post, Jen posted, draw a character. It's like a little meme of this, little sketched out character. And let's see, I have a comment we want to throw up real quick. JD Morales, and how you doing, JD? I haven't seen The Witcher either, but I'm loving Wheel of Time. I haven't seen that. There's so much I haven't seen that exists. I'm like,
I know.
What is this? What is this?
I will tell you, I've heard a lot of good things though about Wheel of Time. People really seem to like it. I was talking with one of our friends, and I guess it's based off of a book series. There are like 14 books.
Wow.
When I have some spare time, I think I'll read those 14 books. But
yeah,
I've heard the series is great, and that the book series is great, and the show is fantastic. So I need to get caught up.
He says, great books, solid adaptation. So, I mean, I want to get caught up on that kind of stuff too, because honestly, I sit and watch the same things. I'll binge watch all these new shows. Like when Heels came out, I didn't binge watch that because I started watching it near the beginning. So I was watching it weekly, but anything else. And then when I have nothing new to watch, I end up reverting back to, like, I've been watching Smallville over the last few days at night. Cause I'm like, I already watched all the Spider-Mans. What do I do now? Oh, Smallville. Like, I don't know. It's a good show. It's very dated, looking at the technology and the effects, but I think without Smallville, we never would have had Flash and Arrow and all these other shows. But the draw a character, and I thought this was a fun one because a lot of people kind of replied back with some of their drawings.
Yeah.
And
let's see it.
Initially, it was just going to be this, but then so many other posts and stuff that we showed before this. But I wanted this to be the main event of the posts for the week. Well, maybe not the main event, but I want to show this one real quick because it's Chris. It's a post that you put up, and it should have been higher up on the list, but I guess I didn't scroll that one up. Anyone else have to see a doctor? This would have been perfect for when we started talking about Spider-Man.
I know. Why did you wait till now?
I think when I usually put the show together, like on Saturdays, I'll put all this stuff in here, and I forgot to move that one to the top with the others. But I need to leave on 17th of December. I have an appointment with my doctor. Boss, okay, my doctor. And I think that's great. I wanted to show that one real quick as I scrolled down and saw it. I was like, oh, whoops. So yeah, draw a character, and some of the replies are hilarious. So Jen replied herself with Batman. I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. And these aren't very easy to draw either. It's on a little phone screen, so you have to like kind of with your finger, or if you have a stylus or something, and like paint over it real quick. I kind of cheated and I screenshotted the original image, and then I went into a drawing app and like did layers and all this stuff. It wasn't like highly detailed, but it was still, a little bit easier. Shelby Terry, I love the Space Ghost. I think that's amazing.
Yes.
And I forgot about Space Ghost until that. I was like, oh yeah, Space Ghost. Totally. I used to love watching that Space Ghost Coast to Coast on Adult Swim late at night. And there was one episode that, like, the entire time is like a 15-minute episode or something is what their runtime was, I think, on that. And an ant bit him in the arm or something. He's like, ouch. And then he crawled on his hands and knees for like 5 minutes straight. And that's all that happened. And at the end, he gets to the cave or whatever with the mother ant, like, your son bit me. And that was the entire thing. And I'm like, this is hilarious. It was ridiculous and dumb, but I thought it was hilarious. I used to love those shows. And then Jen also posted another one, Flash, which I was like, awesome. Because when I saw this post originally, my first instinct was this. And then Corey, of course, always with the great comments. I see you went with a chin strap. And it's funny that Jen did a Flash and then I did a different Flash. But I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I guess I went with a chin strap because on the TV show, we saw that Barry so much that it didn't seem to fit him well. Like he always had this sagging piece of cloth under his neckline there. And it just seemed so weird. So I can't really envision him without the chin strap now. But yeah. And then Corey, more Marvel. Because I think Corey had another one, but I think it's further down the line. I don't know if we showed it yet. Wolverine. And that's a pretty cool Wolverine. I like Wolverine. I didn't think of that one. I don't know why my mind went straight to Flash and not Spider-Man. Because I've been so Spider-Man heavy lately in my head that it should have been Spider-Man. And then Chris Gook posts a Spawn. I think that's a really cool looking Spawn.
I think Chris was just showing off.
I think so. I mean, because that's definitely pretty awesome. And Robin, this is my aunt actually. She posted this one, and I thought that was a pretty cool little drawing.
That's cute.
So we have all different varieties of these characters, of these little things, and when I saw all these posts initially, I was like, we have to include all these. And there may be more now on the post. And if there are that weren't included, I apologize. We do have one more, another Chris Cook one, Spider-Man, which is great. I should have thought of that first. Dang it. Oh, well. But yeah, I wanted to include all those, and I wanted to tag well, you had the idea of tagging everybody. I keep trying to take credit for that. And it was cool. And then people got excited. They were like, oh, yeah, can't wait. And I think it really brought some people in, and it's fun to interact with people.
Yeah.
And we've always loved that interaction. That's why we do a live show. And that's all the post shares that we have for tonight. Again, if we didn't include one of your drawings or something in that post, I apologize because I got all this together like yesterday and might not have seen more newer.
Better luck next time.
Yeah, you weren't fast enough. Oh, Spider Pig. Was there a Spider Pig? Was that Spider Pig? Oh, that's Flash. Never mind. I'm trying to give myself credit. Maybe I missed one somewhere. I don't know. I was like, what are you talking about, Spider Pig? But yeah.
It's not Spider Pig. It's Peter Porker.
Oh, that's true. It is Peter Porker. Well, The Simpsons, they had Spider Pig. Because Homer, I think it was a Simpsons movie, maybe. He's like, Spider Pig. And he took the pig and dressed him up.
Right. But they even had Spider Pig in Into the Spider-Verse.
But was it Peter Porker or Spider? Oh, Spider Pig is the character. Peter Porker is his name. Duh. Right. I'm dumb. I'm like, it was too Peter Porker, but it was too Spider Pig. Forgetting that they were the same. But yeah, that was cool. They had him in, and they're coming out with, what is it called? It's Spider-Verse 2, but I forget what the actual name of it is. It's something clever, like Back into the Spider-Verse or something like that, or Return to the Spider-Verse. I'm excited to see that one.
I think that I really do. I like Miles Morales. I think he's an interesting take on the character, and I'm glad that they're widening the tent a little bit. So,
for sure,
yeah, I think it's great.
And I think that would be cool to adapt some of that into the movies, not like literally Roger Rabbit style or like a weird like Sin City type of. Well, Sin City was just black and white in color, not animated, but you know what I mean, like having that cross of like animation with real life and stuff. And
I think they could really do a great live action Miles Morales. Yeah.
Oh, for sure. I started thinking of who could be Miles Morales. Like, what if you could pick an actor? Like, who would it be? And of course, I would want to get like a genuine Hispanic actor. I wouldn't want to get some tan guy from Miami and just call him Miles Morales. I think it'd be cool to represent that culture, that nationality, not nationality. Is that right? Yeah. But it'd be cool to incorporate that and have it be like a real young Hispanic actor.
Yeah.
And I don't know who. I don't have anybody in mind particularly, but I don't know. Maybe Wilder Valderrama. Hello, everybody. It'd be like Fez from that 70s show. But as Spider-Man, like, oh, look at me. I'm Spider-Man. And then, I don't know. That would be a little. And then he could fight Topher Grace Venom. And then that would be like a reunion.
It would be. It would.
And
be.
then
But
the
then
guy.
they'd be hugging the entire time.
They're like, oh, hello, Eric. I mean, Peter. Yeah, that would be ridiculous. They should not do that. Spider-Man 2099. That's true. And Spider-Verse 2, 2099 Spider-Man.
I loved Spider-Man 2099. In fact, I enjoyed the entire 2099 franchise. I kind of was disappointed that it didn't go anywhere, but the Spider-Man was pretty amazing. So
Corey says, Wilbur Valderrama dressed as Batman, Adam West. Because that was I tell you, that's one of my favorite episodes of that 70s show ever. I watched it with my brother. That was one of our like traditions, was we would watch that 70s show every week wondering what Fez would say next. And my favorite line, I know people from church are watching. I'm going to use, not a bad word, it's that 70s show. But it's funny. I love it. They took Fez trick-or-treating. And this is what Corey's talking about, for those of you that didn't see it. And he was dressed as the Adam West Batman because the show was set in the 70s. So they were watching this show on TV. And they take him trick-or-treating. He has no idea what it was. He's from, I think, they never actually said where he's from. That was the joke. But he was blown away by the concept of trick-or-treating. And they took him. He was dressed as Batman. He was unbelievable. It was unbelievable to him that he can get free candy. And he loved candy. So he goes up all excited to get candy for the first time. And went to the first door. He's like, trick or treat. And then they give him an apple. He's like, and an apple? Where's my candy, you son of a bitch? And that was my favorite line in a sitcom ever, I think, because my brother and I were rolling on the floor laughing at that moment. And I watched that live, for the first time. And that was hilarious. That's what Tori was talking about, and it's great. So if I ever see Wilder Valderrama, I'm going to ask him, "Where's my candy?" He's going to be like, "You're crazy, man." I'm like, "You're punked." I don't know, but yeah, we need to talk about the Flash because that is getting pretty crazy. Yeah, and this week they did have some like, oh, I really thought you guys were doing good this time. They had a couple of those like eye roll moments, whereas the kids say cringy. But overall, it was still a great episode. I love the story. Reverse Flash is back. And what did you think about the new Reverse Flash suit? It's basically the same Flash suit, but yellow.
I kind of liked the ombre effect that they had on the old suit.
Yeah.
It going from the mustard yellow down to like the charcoal black. I kind of liked that effect to it.
I did too.
It just seems too bright yellow.
Yeah. I'm not against the idea of the texture and the material of the suit. I think that fits better, and they're more, there's more mobility and they can do more things in that type of suit than this like weird leather kind of thing. But have like a gloss finish over it, maybe, and even the matte kind of like textured. That's fine, but like you said, had that effect over it, that color. The lower half, he had, I think, red boots. It was more comic accurate, and I think that's what they were going for. But it was less show accurate, and I think the Reverse Flash in the show seemed more menacing and evil than the cartoons or the comics.
It did seem to me like. What the Reverse Flash was doing was just being very personal to Barry. Like he was intentionally, from stealing Iris and marrying her and taking over the team and manipulating them. Killing off Joe. Everything that Reverse Flash did was meant to, hit Barry on an emotional level.
And it worked. I mean,
it did.
And when we find out that Joe is actually dead, it wasn't just a mind trick or a faked footage or anything. They teased that, like, oh, it's just a frame was deleted because he got up and walked away. No, he got killed. Straight up dead. But the question is, and somebody, I think, commented in the group that this is like a reverse Flashpoint. And essentially that's what we're seeing. So at first when I realized, oh, Joe really is dead, because it shows Eobard's telling the story about how he pushed him onto the tracks and then he got squashed. And that's why you didn't see it in the initial footage, because it happened so fast that no one caught it. But yeah, I was like, what? How are we going to get Joe back? Surely they can't just permanently kill him that way and not even tell us about it. I get it, the actor can't be back or whatever, but at least have a funeral scene. But if it's a reverse flashpoint, then what key moment must they go back and redo to change it all back? And then at that point, what's going to be different once they do put it back? I mean, geez. It's crazy.
It is. You know, one of the things that I had seen people post about in regards to this episode was they were questioning why Barry had a hard time risking destroying this alternate timeline that really shouldn't exist in the first place.
Yeah.
I mean, we find out that he's got to run Mach 20 in order to successfully go and change the timeline. But it's going to cause earthquakes. It's going to cause volcanoes and other natural disasters. He's going to create the Armageddon that he had been trying to prevent.
I think a big part of that was Barry knew if he failed, there would be not only no turning back, but the world would be over. He would die. Everyone would die. And there would be no changing it back at that point. And I think that was his main focus. But if you don't try something, then that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
You know,
the other part of it, yeah, the other part of it too, you know, I remember that in the early seasons with Reverse Flash, one of the things he had said, I believe to Cisco, he said to me, "You've been dead for hundreds of years," right?
Yeah.
And that was supposed to be sort of his way of saying, it doesn't hurt me killing you because you're already dead.
And then he was like,
Barry could have essentially said the same thing.
Yeah.
That I don't mind resetting the timeline because you guys never existed. But I think that for him, even though he knew that this timeline shouldn't have existed at all, it was still Iris. It was still his friends. And he knew that he didn't want to take that lightly, right? And I thought that, it was a way of, I think, further separating himself from Thawne a little bit.
In that moment, the stuff with Iris up to that point, this is the 4th episode of the season. And after this next week's episode, they're going to go on break until, I want to say, March. I think it is. But it's still the first 8 episodes, or first 5 episodes of the season. And by episode 4, it took them 3 whole episodes and then half of another to get back to, "You're my lightning rod." And I was so let down. I was like, come on, you could have went the entire season without that, or We Are the Flash, and everybody would have been thrilled. It didn't ruin the episode, but they basically, I think they pulled up the script on the file in a computer and put copy and paste, because it was exactly the same thing that snapped everybody out of Elseworlds, really. Or not snapped them out, but that moment that Iris was like, "You're lying to me. Oh, I love you. You're my lightning rod. Oh, I believe you. Here's my help." And then that exact thing happened. It's like, in this reality, you've known Eobard Thawne as your love. And I loved how she called him Eobard, and then him Alan. Like reversed, that was amazing. But this person you fell in love with and have known all your life, all of a sudden some guy that you hate says, "But I love you." Oh, well, I got to trust you, I guess. Showing that, like, love knows no bounds, even multiversal time shifts and this and that, they still find each other. Like, come on.
I mean, I realized that they had been showing us that, her struggling to write her vows.
Yeah.
It was making her question whether or not she really loved him or wanted to marry him. But that's a far cry from her going and shooting her fiance and helping a criminal. You know what I mean? I thought that was a very un-Iris thing to do. But
and he was a murderer in this timeline. Barry killed so many people.
Right.
And she was like, "Well, but he's got a point. I mean, I can't figure out perfect words to say about a person that I am in deep love with. So he must be telling the truth. Let's just trust him.
I think that Iris, as cliche as it sounds, I think that Iris chose to trust her heart.
Yeah, and that's what ruined. They didn't ruin it, but I mean, I hate when they have Iris's love be the pivotal moment of the story. I mean, yeah, have that, encourage him, and have that like give him the fire, but don't make that the crucial point of the story. But aside from that, like the episode was wonderful. I love seeing Reverse Flash, and he's not gone yet. And so, episode 5, we're going to see Mia Queen come back as the new Green Arrow again, because Barry's still in 2031, so he's going to meet up with her there. And I was curious how they were going to get her from the future, but there we go. He's already in 2031.
Yeah, I like Mia Queen. I think she's great.
Yeah.
I feel bad that that when the Green Arrow show ended, that future essentially just ended with it. That we didn't get any more stories. So it's cool that they're bringing her in.
It really is, and I think hopefully that lasts. I've said it before. Hopefully, people like her, and we saw in this alternate timeline, we've seen Ryan Choi's Adam, which is a lot more comic accurate. You know, it's a lot more spandexy, less techy.
So did really you? Cool. I guess the question comes down to, which Adam do you like better? Do you like the Ryan Choi spandex version? Do you like the Ray Palmer, kind of mecha tech Captain America suit?
I mean, because Ray Palmer is more like a cross between Captain America and Iron Man together, because he has those like jets in his hands and his feet, like, and I think that's way more expensive to give us that character because of all the CGI that you have to use flying and all this stuff. So I guess the benefit of the spandex is like you could see more of him in suit and doing things as the Atom, and less, worry about like how much is this scene going to cost? How much is that scene going to cost? So having these characters, I would love to see that Atom on Legends. And I hope they do that, because then, great situations. People could tease him about the tights and stuff and comedy and this and that. And then Ray Palmer's always seemed too overpowered to be on the Legends. He seemed more important and more like smarter. And it's like if Iron Man joined the Power Rangers or something, like, it just didn't seem like it fit. But so overall, I think I like Ray Palmer's Atom better because I love Brendan Routh and I think he's funny. He's great. And Ryan Choi, we don't really know him yet. So it's like, we've seen him twice.
Right.
Maybe 3 or 4 times counting every episode of Crisis. But I mean, the Crisis story and then that's it.
Right. And this is the first time that we've really seen him do much of anything power-wise. Yeah. So what I wonder is whether this is meant to be sort of like a teaser for him being introduced. So. I think that would be a good idea. Otherwise, why bring him up in Crisis at all if they're not going to use him?
And how cool was it that in this reversed Flashpoint that Batwoman was working on like Team Flash, Alex Danvers was on Team. All these people from the entire Arrowverse were working on Team Flash. It's like that was kind of cool that they just said, "Oh, that they just work here." And I can't skip by this comment because Corey posted, "Every time you get cold feet before a wedding, it must be because your true love is stuck in another time." That could be. I mean, makes sense. I've read theories that, when you have deja vu, it's just you remembering a multiversal event. Like your doppelganger did something and you're remembering it. I mean, that's an actual theory that somebody has out there. So note, Ryan Choi works on Team Flash with Chuck. He also was on Supernatural as the next Prophet replacing Chuck. You got to do that to my mind? You gonna blow it up like that?
He's clearly thought about that one for a while.
Yeah. And then going back a little bit, he says, killed off all the guys on Team Flash except Dibney. I mean, like, if this were a time to bring him back, have a different actor. It doesn't matter. It'd be cool to have Elongated Man back. Even bring him back. I think he could be forgiven. Why not? But yeah, overall, I think it was great. I love the episode, and I'm excited to see the conclusion in a couple of days when it comes out on Tuesday. To see is this the final battle of Reverse Flash? Because it seems like the way the story has been going, the writing has been pretty strong, except for the lightning rod. Everything's been pretty strong overall this season. I hope the rest of the season follows that, but I hope it's not strong because it's the last.
No, I mean, I hope they don't blow their wad on these first 5 episodes, and the rest of them are, not anywhere close to it. I want consistency. That said, I've been really tough on the Flash the last couple seasons, so I've been really happy to see them kind of dust themselves off. The writing, the dialogue, the action has been really fresh. How do you like as far as the crossover is concerned? This has been sort of a crossover light kind of thing, or do you enjoy the way they've done it, or did you want more crossover?
I like the way they did it, honestly, or are doing it, because we're seeing it all contained into one thing. And like Crisis on Infinite Earths, Elseworlds, all these other crossovers, they've all been wonderful too. But when you see the Batwoman episode, you know it's the Batwoman episode. When you see Supergirl's episode, you know it's Supergirl. There's always like that one heavy thing, or they focus on the bigger picture of the overall story and have a side character walk in like, oh, hey, I was on Supergirl. Remember me? And that was a Supergirl episode. It was always either like really strong or really weak as far as that goes. With this, it's like all these characters get to come in and do what they got to do, but it's all in this one like mold. It's all in this one contained bubble of the Flash.
Right. I used to hate.
That's great.
What I hated about the crossovers in the past was if you're trying to watch the entire thing, having to pop between different shows to go and see it from start to finish, that was really annoying. The idea that when we go back and rewatch this season, we can watch every episode in order and just be watching the Flash. I think that's great.
Yeah, and if they wanted to do the big epic show crossovers again, all they really have to do is, well, I was going to say they could just play the same episode each night of that week. Like, say, this week, instead of having 5 different episodes, they could run, well, that would be kind of a waste of TV time. I was going to say run the same episode 5 nights a week, and then the next week run the second episode, and then that would be easier to keep up with, but it would be kind of torture to wait like a full week for part 2.
Right. Who in the crossover would you have liked to see more of?
And this one, gosh, I'm trying to think of I was going to say Reverse Flash, but he's pretty much, he came in at the end of the 3rd episode. So really he's only got two parts. So I would have loved to see him coming in the first part of the episodes and say like, look at me, Barry, I'm the cause of this. And then, but it was nice to see like the big shock at the end, like, oh, it was him. But they've been teasing it because, when he first left at the end of, was it season 6, I guess, when Nora was erased from existence. And he's like, until we meet again, our next Crisis Flash, or whatever that cheesy line was. And he wasn't even in Crisis on Infinite Earths at all. And that show for 6 years at that point had been building towards that moment, and then it didn't even happen. I felt like that was a letdown. So I would love to see more Eobard Thawne.
And I think we're definitely going to see more of him in episode 5.
And then, we're going to see a conclusion because they're going to make Eobard join in touching their lightning rod. Oh, gosh.
So the question is, will we get another lightning lightsaber, duel?
I don't think we'll have one. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think we'll have one before the end of this 5-episode run. But for the rest of the season 8, who's to say? I know one guy that can say, and that man's name is Eric Wallace, who is the showrunner of The Flash. He's the man in charge, the head of the show, the
big cheese,
the manager or the boss or whatever. Yes. The big cheese, the big
kahuna,
the big lightning rod. He's going to be coming on our show very soon.
He is, yeah.
And so I wanted to kind of put that at the end because I thought that was a pretty exciting piece of news.
We've been trying to land that fish for a while, haven't we?
Yeah. Anybody from The Flash. This is our first Flash guest. Our first major guest was Mark Guggenheim, who kind of represented Arrow and Legends because he was the co-creator of both of those shows and executive producer and and all that. And he provided us with some of the Blu-ray sets to give out as prizes, and I still have all mine sitting here, and I haven't opened them. I just look at it sometimes like that's Mark Guggenheim, and put it back on the shelf. And then we had who was the next one? Eric Goins, who was from Stargirl, and
As
so
the Gambler.
We've the Gambler. We've had two Stargirl people now. We had Eric Goins, and then we had Alex Collins, who plays Dr. Midnight, Charles McNider. We had him on, and I believe to this point that was the only Arrowverse people, right? Or am I missing someone?
You're thinking you're missing out on Jordan Elsass.
Oh gosh, how do I be? Oh my gosh, he'll never come on the show again.
Yeah, I mean, literally our biggest. One of the
biggest actor names that we've had. Crazy too, because like he was so well rounded and grounded and just over funny and just energetic and awesome. And I thought, this guy's like 25, 26. He's 19 years old, or was 19, I think, at the time.
He had literally just turned 20.
Yeah,
right when we had that interview. And
I was like, and he was such a cool kid. Like he was so professional and so smart, smarter than I ever will be. Just he had like such an appreciation for everything, and I was so excited to have that one. So we've had representation for most of these shows, except for Supergirl, Batwoman, and Flash. Really, I mean, overall,
we just got to keep pushing.
And so it's exciting. So we're gonna talk to Eric Wallace about the show and everything, and it's excited because this is our second, like I want to call it second Arrowverse executive, even though he might not be an executive. I don't know what his title officially is other than showrunner. I guess executive producer and stuff like that. But Mark Guggenheim and then Eric I keep wanting to say Eric Goins, but Eric Wallace. I'm excited for that because like to have the guy that is the head of my at least current favorite Arrowverse show. Well, not current favorite, but current airing show, which I guess there's only Flash is like the only show airing right now. But it was the show I've watched the most of, and I've been a fan of the longest because I picked up Flash before I picked up Arrow. Just to have that guy be on our show is like, and get to ask him anything really. What did you have for dinner yesterday? What's the weather like at your house? Like, I'm excited for that. I'm so happy. We should tell him those Marvel jokes in our book or my book that I don't really know where it is.
Let's save that for the end. I think maybe when the show's over.
We'll save that for the series finale of this podcast and for the one guest that we don't like.
Right.
Which I don't think will be happening because I love every guest we have on here.
Right. Stephen, I think we need to have an official joke book burning ceremony.
That would be a great episode.
I think that would really up our numbers.
We could do a live vote and see like, or maybe not a live vote, but like a running vote, and then the live show could be the result. Like vote how to kill this book.
Right.
Should we rip it out page by page, wad each page up and throw it like a basketball? Should we burn each page? Should we hit it with an axe? Like, should we, blow it up with some explosives that somebody could provide from Tijuana?
So for the record, I generally speaking do not advocate book burning by any means whatsoever. However, for that joke book, I'm willing to make an exception. So
we could go to the person whose idea it was and smack them in the face.
All right. When you find them, let me know.
It'd be funny if it was Mark Guggenheim or something like, "Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Like, we love you. It's a great book." But I don't think so. He's written for Marvel before, but I don't think he came up with that. I think he would have better jokes if it was his.
Right. It was like written by a 6-year-old.
Send it up in a SpaceX rocket. I mean, we could, if anybody has like the phone numbers of like a Bezos or, any of those kinds of dudes, like call them up and get them on the show, and I'll give them the book to take up and blow up in space or
I've got a few $1 million lying around.
Can I have it? No. Oh, but yeah, I'm excited for what's coming up, and we've got a few guests lined up, and it's exciting. And I don't know when exactly. We don't have specific dates set up. I'm still waiting to hear back from Eric Wallace's assistant, who's supposed to. Claire has set us up. Claire works with Warner Brothers in the publicity department, and she's the one hooking us up with these people. And I'm waiting to hear back from either her or his assistant, whose name is Alex too. So it's always Alex and Eric. It kind of confuses me. It's like that's the only two people that we talked to was Alex and Eric. But it's cool. Waiting to hear back about exactly specific dates and times that he's available. But he's in. So that's great news. And then I could ask him for Grant Gustin's phone number. And we can get him. And from that, we can ask for Stephen Amell's phone. No. Probably won't happen, but, we can give the word out to Eric Wallace. Say, hey, all your friends on The Flash and all these other people, let them know about this show and tell them to come on, and tell your mailman next time you go out to get the mail to tune in. When Eric Wallace's mailman tunes in, that's it. We're going.
Yeah, that would mean that we've arrived.
But Corey, that's a good exclamation point to put on this topic, because John Wesley Shipp would be we need to ask. And Claire said, he could come on because she handles the publicity for The Flash. So he could come on, but it's just getting him in touch. And, the first time he respectfully declined because he didn't want to step on any executive's toes, any studio toes. He wanted to do it by the book. He didn't want to jump where he shouldn't jump, or run where he shouldn't run. And I respect that. I think that's great. But I'm excited for all this coming up, and, maybe we can sell ourselves to Jeff Bezos or somebody like that, Elon Musk, and then we can go to SpaceX rockets ourselves and video that live from the space station. That's how we kill the book. We go to the International Space Station and then shoot it out of the space station and let it float away into nothing. And while we're there, make sure to get every copy of 2016 Ghostbusters you can. Who cares? Maybe they'll plug up the ozone hole. I mean, because I don't know. I just can't believe that exists in this world. And that's like 38 minutes I will never get back.
Yeah, and I lost out on an hour and a half. So
I'm going to have to wake up half an hour early in the morning to get that time back.
Yeah, I know. Well, it sounds like we're kind of wrapping things up here tonight.
We are. So, yeah, it's been fun. And next week, I don't know if you'll get to watch. I know I'm like pressuring you, like, go watch Spider-Man as soon as you can. If we can't talk about it on Sunday, that's totally fine. If anybody is able to watch it before this next Sunday, that'd be great, because I'm going to watch it on Friday, and I'll be so excited to talk about it with somebody. I'm going to be like, who do I talk to? So hopefully, if you get a chance to see it between on Friday or Saturday,
I'm going to try really, really hard.
If not, then I'll tell you everything that happens live on this show.
Okay.
And
totally
I won't spoil it. We won't spoil it. Well, I won't spoil it. Hopefully you do. And if anybody else doesn't see it and the two of us do, then you're going to be spoiled. We can't wait for everybody in the world to watch it first and then talk about it. But it's going to be great. Maybe I'll live stream it. I'll just turn on my phone and like hold it up to the screen like, welcome to Between a Bar and a Hard Place. I'm Stephen Colton, and this is Spider-Man No Way Home. And just record the whole thing.
Yeah, I'm sure that nobody would notice you doing that.
No, YouTube would not put a copyright on that. I don't think.
Never.
I would just say for review purposes, like every 15 minutes, and
right,
that'd be great.
Right, they would completely demonetize us.
Oh yeah, not that we even qualify for monetization yet, but we would be disqualified immediately.
Right. Speaking of monetization, if you guys.
Thank you, JD.
All right. Thanks, Jared. So, yeah, I mean, if you guys are watching and you haven't already, subscribed to us on YouTube, then head over there. Make sure that you go ahead and subscribe to us
right now. And you'll see this information again as the show closes out with our theme song and everything. And I want to thank Scott Shalfo again for giving us this song to use. And I want to thank Corey for cutting it together and making this intro and exit from the show, and all the great shortcuts not shortcuts, but short clips. When
you talk about Corey, you mean our associate producer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it really is. I was gonna put his Twitter and everything up on the thing, and he was like, "No, that's fine. Don't do that." Like, all right. I guess he doesn't like being in that spotlight, but we're gonna be like, Corey's an associate producer. He makes all this stuff. Ha 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 ha. Now he's gonna post embarrassing things about both of us, but he doesn't have much dirt on me. So,
yeah, and he's never held back on me. So
he could just come over with some nunchucks and hit you in the face with them like you were kids.
I know. We'll bring it back.
And he could swing them so hard that it would hit me. Because he could somehow use his psychic abilities to like make me feel the pain. Oh gosh, yeah, that's terrible. When I start making terrible, goofy things up, then you know it's near the end of the show.
It's time to wrap things up.
It is. All right, so we'll go ahead and wrap that up on that note. And everybody go watch Spider-Man this Thursday or Friday, and watch it on Saturday too, and on Sunday morning after church if you go to church. If you don't, then I'm not going to force you to go to church. But like watch Spider-Man either way. And come here and let us talk about it. And if you can't watch it, we can talk about it the next week. But it's going to be a great show next week either way.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Don't know exactly what the show's going to be about yet, but it's always a fun time on this show. So, okay. So Corey, in closing, I don't need the death threats. Still need that oil for the fridge, Steven. Okay, well, oil for the fridge. Well, all right. So we're going to go ahead and close up here. Everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing, even though you might not have done it already. Thank you for this episode. I felt like it was a lot more fun, more interaction from a lot of people.
I love it. I love it.
It's great. And keep those posts coming on the group. And if you haven't joined the group yet and you're just watching this on YouTube, head over to facebook.com/groups/between a pot and a hard place and join, because it's really the group for this show. And so we pull stuff from that group, talk about it on the show and vice versa. So it's a great time. And maybe we can, when we have interviews in the future, we can transcribe them and post them in the comment sections, one comment at a time.
Well, I think it'd be cool to be able to kind of invite some people from the group to come onto the show.
It would be. And that's one of the things I love about the interactions. And I want to do fan Q&As with all of our upcoming guests. The wrestling fans, for when we have Charlie Haas come on. If you want to, I can't guarantee we could pop you up on the screen and say, here's your question for him. But that would be a cool idea. I just don't want to overwhelm him with like different people popping up, like talking and like, trying to keep up. And the same with Eric Wallace, and the same for any other future guests that we're having coming up. Post your comments, come onto the show. It would be nice to be able to have a few people come up and say something. Just thank them for what they do, tell them they suck, whatever. But don't do that, because then we might not get to have those guests anymore. And if somebody does come on here and say that somebody sucks, somebody funnier than that guy comes on and like makes up for it. So that'll probably be Corey in that moment.
Right.
All right. So have a good week, everybody. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch up next week.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, you too. See ya.